Welcome back everybody, I am Follygon, and in this video we are going to continue on with Sculptober for day 7, Scratch. And for that prompt, I decided to work on a French Bulldog by Jeniak Draws. You might hear the occasional crash of thunder in the background. I am trying to record in between raining. The rain just stopped for a moment, so I'm trying to get this in as quick as I can here. But before we get in and talk about the process here, make sure you click that subscribe button if you are new around here, and check out gumroad.com/Follygon for all of my courses, brushes, materials, and all sorts of other goodies. So this is actually the second dog that I have sculpted from Jeniak Draws. The first one was a Chihuahua that I did for a sculpt and chill session. If you guys are unfamiliar with those were some morning live streams that I was doing where I played some chill music and did some zebra sculpting. Similar to what we're doing here, but without the commentary. It was more so just kind of focused on relaxing and playing some chill music. But all October long, I am creating videos just like this to show off some more daily sculpts while also talking about my process. So by this point, I've already blocked out a lot of the different aspects of the dog, and if blockout is something that you are more interested in, I know it kind of flies by really quick here in the beginning, so if you guys want some more info on blocking out characters or really anything, I will link a video on screen for you guys right now. Blockout is essentially that process of just getting in all the initial parts and pieces so that you can begin refining more and more from there. You can't really work on proportions or anything else until you at least get something on your canvas. So those early stages are super important, but a lot of the time people, I think, get very hesitant or very stuck staring at a blank screen. It's a little intimidating, right? So I think during the early stages it's okay to be a little more lenient on proportion and really trying to keep things beautiful. It's more about just kind of slapping something on there super quick. You'll notice that with my sculpt, I leave a lot of awkward stuff in there all the time. If you've seen any of my 2D to 3D videos, then you probably have seen this before where I'll do something like leave a creepy placeholder with some bulging eyes or something weird like that. So I don't really care what it looks like right now to an extent. It's more about what it's going to look like when it's finished. So with the dog here, you know, I got some really awkward stuff going on with the chest, but it'll all be corrected later. The paws on this dog were pretty fun to work on. I've done this before, and I've kind of refined the process pretty well now to where essentially you create the larger shape of the paw, whatever that might be, essentially the primary form, right? And then you use a slice curve brush to cut that up into different segments, and then you close holes on those parts and inflate that geometry and then kind of refuse it back together to get a really nice clean separation between the areas of the toes. Then you blend together the other parts where you don't want those seam lines. So it's pretty fun, it's pretty easy, and I do it for the back paws as well. So like I said, some more cleanup on the chest. You know, nothing's really ever final or nothing's really ever finished. It's kind of what artists like to say, it's never finished, only abandoned, right? So same thing kind of applies here where I'm just kind of messing with some different shapes. For the arms and for the chest, I put in a lot of these really hard lines or hard edges, you'll notice. I talked about the quality of my edges during my last video where I sculpted Maui yesterday. So if you guys haven't seen that one yet, make sure you go check it out. I'm definitely putting some really hard and sharp edges in the legs here, and a lot of that will be softened up. But at least for now, trying to figure out exactly where I want those plane changes to go, it just kind of makes sense. Plus, it's a little bit of the original 2D artist's art style, so I wanted to bring a little bit of that into the sculpt as well. I saw some people asking about how long I was spending on these daily sculpts. For future reference, I always put the time down in the description. This one in particular took 3.5 hours to sculpt. Sometimes they take a little bit less, sometimes they take a little bit more. I like to try to keep these under 3 hours if I can. This one went a little bit beyond that, but you know what? That's just kind of how it goes sometimes. Then it's off to the face to begin doing some general kind of shape changing and cleanup. A lot of proportions need to be adjusted here. I need to get the final smile that's going to be in there at least started. And I also need to do things like adjust that bottom portion of the jaw, get a tongue in there. The jaw as it was kind of just a floating sphere that I had squashed down there. as a temporary placeholder. As you guys have seen, I like to leave placeholders around all the time. They act as little reminders for me to come back to them later. And then just kind of some general plane change adjusting, working with a lot of crease brushes to begin forcing surfaces to change direction, and then using curve brushes for a really interesting technique that I ended up removing most of the form from. You'll see me use 2 separate tubes of geometry around the dog's bottom area of the eyes to begin essentially creating a larger plane change and the larger form of the lower kind of wrinkled lid. I end up erasing almost all of that because it was far too strong, but at least initially it started getting the geometry going in the direction that I wanted, so I was kind of fine with, taking the time to do that. If I was going to redo it, I probably wouldn't have used that there. I probably would have just, added in a couple strokes with an inflate brush or something similar to get that a little bit faster. I was still a little bit stuck in the same mindset as I was yesterday for the Maui sculpt, where I did a lot of that, using a lot of primitive shapes to block out the character's face. And I wasn't, fully there, so it didn't really work too much here, and I kind of overdid it in a lot of spots, so I needed to smooth that out, blend it back in, and get it looking nice and clean. Lots of simple proportional adjustments. Whenever I am trying to do large changes to an object, I am always using masks, and I am always using subdivision levels, specifically my lowest subdivision level. I get a lot of questions about how to know when to switch between Dynamesh and subdivision levels, and how to use Z-Remesher and all this stuff. I have a lot of videos on that, kind of talking about the process. But in general, my advice is that it's not really a big deal because you can always go back and forth between the two. So I like to start with geometry in Dynamesh, and then after a while, I will either swap to Z-Remesher for a little bit, swap the subdivision levels for a while, and then, jump back and forth whenever I need. It just kind of depends on what I need for the process. If you guys are confused about how to go about that, I believe I still have a projection tutorial on my YouTube channel. It's pretty old and there are better ways to do it. So if you have no idea what I'm talking about and you want to learn more about it, just type into YouTube ZBrush projection or ZBrush history recall projection, and that will kind of detail the process for you. I can almost guarantee that somebody else has made one if I don't have one here on my YouTube channel still. And that's enough technical talk, so it's off to the face for some asymmetry. I will be posing him very soon, but I needed to get the wink of the eye over on his right side, and then I needed to create some nice cute little toe beans for the bottom pad of the foot. And of course, it's back to our good old friend, the sphere, for that, as well as using the exact same technique that I used on the front paw to split that into the different toe segments. And I'm not gonna show that again because it's a little bit of a repeat process. So continuing on, moving up to the whiskers to add those in really quick, just a couple on each side, nothing too fancy. And then for the pose. For all of these characters, all of these, whatever I'm working on for Sculptober, if I am going to break symmetry on them, and maybe I could do something completely asymmetrical for a little bit of a challenge, but that just takes a long time, probably a lot longer than what I have for something daily like this. So if/when I am adding asymmetry to a sculpt for these, I will just be doing something quick and simple at the end. So for our little puppy here, I would have loved to have done more with the asymmetry, more with the pose to exaggerate it a little bit more, because I think it feels quite a bit stiff here, but it's better than nothing in my opinion. Even just a little bit of asymmetry helps things kind of come to life. And then of course, after adding that simple pose, I hit back up on the paint. I didn't talk about the painting process yet, but I used what is called a spray stroke to kind of get that dotted effect to blend between the edges of the colors between the off-white and brownish color. And now I'm just going back through, adding some more variation, as well as using the smooth brush with RGB turned on and not Z-add, that is very important, so that I can go ahead and blend between some different colors. This will actually smooth your polypaint or smooth your colors on your object, and it's a really cool technique. If you guys have never tried it before, I recommend giving it a shot. And we kind of zoomed through this one pretty quick here, so all the last minute details that you guys love hearing me talk about Just very simple things, little bits of cleanup, more smoothing, more blending, trying to get everything feeling nice and finished. That's gonna be it for this one. A little bit shorter than the other ones, but I am okay with that. So if you guys wanna check out more of my stuff, go ahead and click that subscribe button. And if you're interested in learning more about digital sculpting, check out gumroad.com/Follygon. There you can find my custom brushes, materials, and all sorts of courses and tutorials. With that, thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next Sculptober video.